for the corner workers. We are good to go. Up at the line, we got Eric Hyman on the left-hand side with that 31.7 dial-in. David Rock up on the right from STR with a 33.708. This begins the Tire Rack Super Challenge here at the round 2 of the ProSolo series. Starter, we're good to go when they're set. All right, David Rock getting away with a good 5.59 reaction, a 6.34 for Eric Hyman. Eric working the right side in that BRZ as the GTR went down again this weekend, having some mechanical problems in that front diff or axles or something once again here today. So David Rock with the advantage at the start line and on that faster right side course, and he is definitely going to be coming home first, it appears. And he is back first as Eric motors the BRZ home, and David in with a 4.8 second lead. David Rock with that 4.8 second lead, moving over to the left side. Eric Hyman pulling up on the right side. At least, yeah, there he is. All right, hole shots here, Eric, with a big red light, even under the left on the second yellow. David Rock, the automatic winner once he got a green light. We'll let these two guys finish, and then we can pull up the info on our drivers at the line. Looks like Don Green and Matt Ailes over on the right side. Mark Allis. Okay, sorry about that. Midwest pronunciation. All right, at the line, Don Green on the left side, the Mini Cooper with a 36.553 dial in for Don. For Matt on the right, 34.825. Starter, we're good to go. Alrighty, hole shots there, a pair of sixes. Don with a slight advantage there of 500s, 632 to a 686. So Don Green with a slight advantage, but he's got the tougher left side course. We'll see what Matt Allis is able to do over on their right side, running that BMW. Coming around that final maneuver into the finish lights. Right side's back first by a 1/10.5, so Matt Allis in with a 1/10.5 lead, but now Don Green moving to that right side, and he gets his shot at that quick right side course. Okay, Don Green with a 765 light. Matt Allis coming alive with a 629, so it picked up another 1/10 of a second, so a 2.5 tenths lead right now. See if that's going to be enough to hold on to the lead as Don Green is now on that quicker right side course, and one of the magnets came off of the Mini. So coming down through that final stretch, looks like Don Green's got the advantage going in and definitely finishes ahead. Don Green will take it by 8.5 tenths, 8.5 tenths win for Don Green. Okay, apparently, woo, that does give you a bit more volume. Okay, at the line, we got Paul Russell up on the left side with a 29.4. On the right, Ken Mononishi, 33.7. Starter, we're good to go. Okay, hole shots there, a pair of fives, best pair of starts we've seen all day. A 5.60 from Ken Mononishi, 5.37 from Paul Russell. So two great starts by these championship drivers. Paul Russell again in the cart on the left side, Ken Mononishi on the Honda S2000 on the right side. So they come barreling back down towards the last maneuvers. Ken Mononishi with the advantage going in, but watch Paul Russell just dance that cart around. But Ken Mononishi is back first by 0.7 of a second, 0.7 advantage going over to the other side. Now Paul Russell gets his shot at that right side, plus he's got those race slicks all warmed up. See if Paul Russell's able to make this really interesting. It would appear that they're very close to coming within a tenth of each other, I suspect, on the final results, whoever comes out on top. Okay, a 4.3 second advantage on the tree. Another great light for Ken Mononishi, a 5.63. A little bit slower for Paul Russell, but pretty good one. 6.24. 6.24 for Paul Russell. And Paul trying to make up that 0.7 of a second. And now a cone down on the left for Ken Mononishi. Of course, Paul doesn't know anything about that, so he knows he's got to go for it, is all that he's got in his head, knowing he's got the faster course. Can he monopolize it and pull back that 0.7? And it sure looks like he did. By he would have won by 0.6 even without the cones. So the cones just sort of the icing on top of the cake there. Paul Russell taking the win, and we'll move to the next round, to round 2. All right, at the line, we get Michael Heinitz over on the left side, and then MSR or MX5 MSR, 34.599. Stephen on the right side in the M3 with a 34.825. Starter, they're all yours. Hole shots there, a pair of sixes. Stephen with a slight advantage, a 6.15 to a 6.71 for Michael Heinitz over on the left side. Again, Stephen's on that fast right side course and with a slightly better hole shot. So they come out of the setup maneuver for the final turn. Looks like Stephen had the slight advantage going in and definitely is to the finish lights first. He's in with an 8.5 lead for Stephen on the right side. And one cone on the right side. One cone on the right side for Stephen. So he was ahead by 8.5. So that now swings the advantage to Michael Heinitz by 1.1 seconds. 1.1 second lead now for Michael Heinitz. Now over on that right side due to the cone by Stephen. And a late word, it was actually 2 cones, so even a bigger advantage now for Michael Heinitz. Well, now it's back to 1 cone, so drivers actually knew the right information. Unfortunately, I didn't. All right, the top of the course, Michael Heinitz has the advantage at the far end. They come barreling into the finish lights. Right side is back first. He stretches it out a little bit, a 1.3 second advantage and win for Michael Heinitz. So Michael Heinitz taking the win by over a second. He will move to the round of 16. All right, at the line, We get Doug Rouse up on the left-hand side in the BMW with a 32.351 dialing. James Yam on the right with a 34.180. Start of the draw, yours. Okay, hole shots pair of sixes here, so a pair of good ones here. Doug Rouse on the left with a 619, a 605 for James Yam, so pretty much equal there coming off the line. But it looks like a cone down on the right side for James. Yep, one cone for James Yam there at the end of that kind of curving slalom. Into the finish lights, right side's back first by almost 4/10, but you add the cone to it, becomes a 1.6 second advantage for Doug Rouse. Okay, so Doug Rouse with a big advantage now due to the cone, a 1.6 second advantage for Doug over on that right side. All right, Doug Rouse knowing he's got a big lead, you know, the 741 light. James Yam knowing he's got to go for it and just hope. A 554 light, but a cone down again for James. Almost the same cone. In fact, I think it is the same cone. So James with 2 cones total now. So definitely a much easier road here for Doug on that right side. And Doug is back first, stretches it out, and the cone on top of that. So a big win there for Doug Rouse in the BMW. The BMW taking the win will move to the round of 16. All right, at the line, up on the left side, we get Stephen Yo with the Civic. He's in with a dial in a 34.336. James on the right in the Porsche, 33.681. So started, they're all yours. Okay, pair of 8s on reaction times, pretty close there, and about 7/10 advantage on the left side for the Honda over the Porsche. All righty, over on the left side, Stephen coming into the finish. On the right, looks like James is in first. Yep, he is. Almost 1.2 second lead for James Gunn Wilkinson on the right side for the Porsche. 1.2 second advantage over Stephen Yo. Now Stephen gets his try at the faster right side course. All right, hole shots here, 770 for Stephen, going for it, 856 for James with that lead. And looks like a cone, or at least workers are running towards the cone on the right side for Stephen. We'll see if ends up counting. Nope, he was safe on that one, so good. But he's got to make up 1.2 seconds. But it looks like they're running for a second one. Nope, safe on that one too, apparently. So threatening them, but still not enough. He made up a lot of it, though, and James taking the win in the Porsche by 2.5 tenths. So Stephen gave it a real good go and just came up 2.5 tenths shy there after being behind by a fair margin. So good job there for Stephen, but just not quite enough. So the Porsche moves forward, and right now at the line we get Mark Scroggs over on the left side in the Focus with a 35.722. Jonathan Lugott on the right side, 33.708. Started there all years. Okay, Mark asleep at the wheel there a bit, over 1 second reaction time, almost 1.1. Meanwhile, Jonathan Lugott with a 684, so almost half the reaction time of Mark. So Mark making this a bit tougher for himself. He's on that hard left side course, plus that reaction time. And Jonathan Lugott at the wheel on the right side, so former Rookie of the Year. So Jonathan in first by 1.4 seconds, a 1.4 second lead right now for Jonathan in this pairing. All right, all shots there, 748 for Mark on the right side, definite improvement. Jonathan still cutting pretty good ones, 674 on the left side, despite having that 1.4 second lead. Okay, some problem for Mark Scroggs. I'm not sure. I guess took my eye off it, and I looked up, and he was just chugging along. Apparently, got all crossed up there. So cone down there. So a win for Jonathan Lugott of almost 8 seconds after Mark came to a stop after nailing a cone. Getting that tough sort of 2-cone slalom setup for the final maneuver. All right, at the line we got Peter Loney on the left side, in the Miata with a 35.092. Right side Neil Marvin in the Honda Fit with a 36.553. Started, we're good. Okay, Neil Marvin working that right side, had a 564 light. That's a great hole shot. And that Honda Fit doing real well into the finish. And he's in first by 0.7 of a second. So good run there for Neil Marvin on the right side. And Peter Loney now he has his shot at that course. And that 0.7 is about what a lot of folks think that course is, the margin, the extra time that's there on the right side. Somewhere between 7 and 7, 9, 10, somewhere in that range. So Peter Loney not still alive in this, definitely, as he's got his shot at that course now. All right, hole shots. Peter's going for it, 571. Neil not resting on his laurels there with a 663, but he does have a 0.7 lead from that right side. We'll see if Peter Loney can match that or come ahead. He's in the Miata on the right-hand side. Meanwhile, Neil in the blue Honda Fit working that left side course. They go through the crossover, about get to the setup at about the same time. We'll see how they get through that final maneuver. Looks like Peter Loney's got the big advantage, and he does. He ends up winning by 8/10, and he ends up with a new breakout, new dial-in. He broke out by almost 4/10 of a second, so a new dial-in next time for Peter Loney, as he really nailed that one, and he'll have a dial-in now of a 34.498. So his dial-in improved by about 6/10 of a second. So Peter, that's going to be tough road on that next round. But at the line, we get Jeff Stuart up on the left side in the 370Z with a 34.642 dial-in. Ken Trindell on the right side with a 34.336. Starter, we're good to go. All right, Jeff Stewart with a 7:17. Ken Trindell with a great 6:02 reaction time. All right, advantage coming into the wall there at the finish. Ken Trindell ahead, and he is back first by 9/10 of a second, a 9/10 lead, 9.5 lead for Ken Trindell as he now moves to that left side. And we'll see if Jeff Stewart can pedal that Nissan just as hard and see if he can get that 9/10 kind of advantage over there on that right side course. But right now, Ken Trindell in the white Civic with the 9.5 lead. Okay, pair of sixes, 6:10 left, 6:11 right. That's about as close to synchronized starts as you could get there. Jeff Stewart going for it, knowing he's got to make up that 9.5. He's on that faster right side course, hoping he can do the same thing Kinch did, or hope Kinch makes a mistake over on that left side. But fairly rare for Kinch Trindell to make an error like hitting a cone and such. So Kinch coming around, right side's back first, and with enough to take the win. So Jeff Stewart taking the win with a 5/10 lead, or win I should say, .539 win for Jeff Stewart over Ken Trindell. All right, up at the line we get Jason Munchoff on the left side in the S2000 with a 33.708. Michael on the right with a 34.166. Starter, we're good to go. Alrighty, cone down on the left side for Jason, so making it much easier for Michael. Okay, Mike. Okay, a lot of folks like their proper name, but apparently he goes by Mike. So 2 cones down, as it turns out, on the left-hand side. So Michael Yanase having a bit of an easy time there, lead of 7/10 on time, plus 2 cones for Jason. So I suspect we're going to see a somewhat leisurely start there for Mike, particularly since he's working on a breakout kind of time. Starter. Okay. A different kind of leisurely start that time. All right, 9:34 reaction for Michael, and Mike is we expected with almost a 5-second lead. Jason cutting a 6:02 light, so a great hole shot there for Jason, going for everything that works. So around that final turn, Jason will be back first, but I don't know if it's 5 seconds. Nope, he got about half of it back though. A 2.5 second win for Mike Yanase. And Mike will go to the next round in that BRZ, so he is the winner. All right, up at the line, we get James Feinberg in the Audi TT with a 34.425 dial-in. Kevin Schultz on the right, 34.166. Starter, they're all yours. Okay, for Kevin Schultz on the right, a little leisurely there with an 8:21 reaction time. James Feinberg with a 6:60. James coming all the way from North Carolina to run with us here with that Audi TT. Former national champ. So James Feinberg working that left side, right side Kevin Schultz. Kevin getting a little crossed up, it looked like, and the workers are running. I don't know if there was a cone or not. I guess it was safe. Yep, safe on that one. And Kevin's in first by almost 0.7 of a second, 6:85. So James Feinberg will now have his shot at that right side course. Again, Kevin Schultz with that advantage from that right side, but now he's got the tougher left side course. James Feinberg coming over on the right side. All right, hole shots here. James Feinberg going for it, a 560 with a 9:03 for Kevin Schultz. So that's 3.5 tenths of the almost 7 tenths. So half of the lead just went away right there at the start line on reaction time. Plus, James Feinberg's on that tough right side course, or easier right side course, but he got a cone. He tagged a cone out there somewhere. I don't see the worker running it. Oh, there it is, not the far end, I guess. Yep, way down there. James Feinberg with a cone. He was back 4.48, so would have taken it on time, but unfortunately tagged the cone, and the win goes to Kevin Schultz in the Golf R. So Feinberg cones out, and Kevin Schultz is the beneficiary, and he'll move to round 2. Next car's up. We're looking for, Brian Peters, I believe, and Jason Rhoades. Okay, Brian Peters up on the left-hand side in the 350Z, a 33.148. Dial in for Brian on the left side. Right side for Jason, 32.100. 32.100. Starter, they're all yours. Okay, Jason Rhoades cutting a 672 light. Brian Peters with a 712. So slight advantage there for Jason Rhoades. All right, into the coming down towards the finish again. Brian Peters working that left side. Looks like Jason Rhoades has a little bit of an advantage coming out of it and powers it to the finish in that Viper with an 0.8 lead going into the second half of this pairing. 831 advantage for Jason Rhoades. Now Brian Peters gets his shot at that right side course. All right, a couple of fairly easy lights there. 8:33 for Brian Peters on the right side, and really leisurely for Jason Rhoades, a 9.95. So 1/10 and a half of his 8.5 tenths went away. So effectively, it's a 7 tenths lead. Boy, we've heard that number before coming off the right side. So Brian Peters now crossing over. He's definitely got a big chunk of time advantage right now coming into that final maneuver. We'll see what that Viper can do coming into that final shot. But Brian Peters takes it by 95 thousandths of a second, one of our closest margins yet, a 95 thousandths win for Brian Peters in the Nissan 350Z. All right, up next we got Greg McCance over on the left side in that WRX with a 31.943. Max Tsang on the right side, a 34.166. Started there all years. Okay, about a 3-second advantage there on the right side for the STX car over the ESP car of Greg McCance and that all-wheel drive Subaru. Greg having a 5.93 light to a 6.34 for Max, so a great hole shot for Greg McCance, and as always probably a great 60-foot time. And a cone on the right side from Max Tsang in the BMW 325. So one cone down there on the right side, making things a bit easier for Greg McCance. Greg looks like he's back first anyway. He is. One of the rare times we've seen an advantage on the left side time-wise. 168 advantage plus the cone on the right side. Just one cone on the right. Alrighty, Tsang with a 5.96 hole shot there to a 6.63 for Greg McCance. Greg with a 2-second lead on that one. Sorry, my computer screen went dead there for a second. What is it, time? All right, as they come around towards the finish again, Greg McCance with the lead last time of 1/10 and a half, and then the 2 seconds for the cone. So into the finish light, Greg McCance takes the win, stretches it out a bit more with a now a total of 3 seconds, a 3-second win for Greg McCance in the white Subaru. All right, up at the line, looks like we got Tom Berry on the left side with a 30.739, and Brian Highcotter on the right side with a 34.166. Starter, we're good. Alrighty, Tom Berry, great 629 light, but even better for Brian Highcotter in the 300ZX, the as he calls it, the heavy STX class, 532 for him. Okay, into the finish light, Brian Highcotter back first by half a second, 0.495 to be exact. We'll call it a half a second lead for Brian Highcotter over Tom Berry. Now Tom gets his shot at that right side, trying to make up that half a second. Tom now over on the right side of the Mitsubishi, Brian on the left in the Nissan 300ZX. All right, hole shots there, 5.95 for Brian Highcotter, 6.12 for Tom Berry, so not too far apart on that one. Right now it's the advantage of a half a second from that right side when Brian Highcotter in that STX car was over there. Now Tom Berry trying to make that differential up. As they come out of the into the crossover, Tom Berry has the advantage coming out of it. So that bodes well for him, as he's really quick on this final stretch, and he's definitely back first and takes the win by a little over half a second. So Tom Berry in the Mitsubishi taking the win will move to round 2. All right, at the line we get Gary Thomason up on the left side in the Viper with a 32-100. Max Hayter over on the right in the Subi with a 34-166. So started, we're good to go. Okay, a 593 for Max Hayter and a 649 for Gary Thomason. So bit of advantage there for Max, and he's going to need all of it. Gary Thomason really dialed into that Viper. Down quite a ways after Heat 1 and really come barreling back in Heat 2 to pretty much dominate the class. Into the finish, though, it'll be Max Hayter back first. He's in by 1.2 seconds, a 1.2 second advantage for Max Hayter. Looking great in that BRZ. So Gary Thomason's got his work cut out for him now. He's got to make up 1.2 seconds on that right side course. Alrighty, Max Hayter with a 644 hole shot, a 645 for Gary, so they'll call that equal. And it comes down to that differential from before. 1.2 seconds is the advantage Max Hayter had, but now Gary Thomason and that very fast Dodge Viper gets its shot at that quick right side course. And boy, does he look good at that turnaround. Coming through, he's definitely ahead at the exit of it. And down into that final maneuver, again trying to make up 1.2 seconds. Is he there? And Gary Thomason does it by 31 thousandths of a second, our closest margin yet. Gary Thomason comes from 1.2 seconds down to win by 31 thousandths. Gary Thomason moving on to the second round. All right, at the line, we got KJ Christopher on the left side in the special with a 27.611 dial in. Jeff Cawthorne on the right with a 33.708. Started, they're all yours. All right, a 7:23 reaction time to KJ, 6:49 for Jeff Cawthorne. Boy, when KJ finally gets that thing spooled up and going, it just blasts away when it hits about the 60-foot mark. But right now, it's Jeff Cawthorne still with a bit of the lead he had at the lights in that STR car. Coming around to the finish line, race to the finish here, and Jeff Cawthorne has it by 9/10 of a second. 9/10 lead for Jeff Cawthorne now over KJ Christopher. This is our last pair of cars in the first round. We'll be down to 16 drivers now after these guys determine which one goes to round 2. Right now it's Jeff Cawthorne with the lead of 9/10 of a second over KJ in the special. All right, KJ getting away after that long difference. 8:26 dial in for him. That's not the way to catch Jeff Cawthorne. Jeff cutting a 591 light. So Jeff not taking anything for granted there, knowing that KJ's really got that A-Mod car really flying these days through the crossover, and KJ's almost caught him at that point. They duck out at almost the same time. It'll be this blast to the finish. And Jeff does it by 9/10 of a second. KJ made up 3/10 of it, but not enough. 9/10 win by Jeff Cawthorne. Jeff Cawthorne, 9/10 win over KJ. Alrighty, at the line we got David Rock up on the left side, starting round 2 in the Spider with a 33.708 dial in. Don Green in the right with a 36.553. Starter, we're good to go. All right, pair of 7s there, so no advantage working there of particular note. David Rock working that left side in the Toyota Spider. Don Green in the all right, again, David Rock working that left side. Don Green with the advantage coming out and definitely to the finish line first. A 1.5 second advantage for Don Green in the Mini, really taking advantage of that right side. Extra speed there in that course. 1.5 second lead and actually running a breakout time of 3.5 below his dial-in, but that may be mitigated a bit here when you get onto the slower side. So Don Green working that left side with a big lead over David Rock on the right. Okay, pair of 6s there, pretty close to equal on reaction time, so David Rock did not make up any of that 2.5 he needs there at the start line. So he's really going to have to be pedaling hard on that right side course or hope for Don to make a mistake. Coming out of the turnaround, looks like David Rock had a little bit of advantage as they're coming down into that sort of slalom setup for the last maneuver, and David Rock is back first, and it is enough to win by 1/10.5. David Rock taking the win as he did that last set of maneuvers really, really well. Ended up with a win of 1/10.5 over Don Green. All right, at the line we got Paul Russell on the left with a 29.4. Right side Michael Heinitz with a 34.5. Starter, we're good to go. Okay, a pair of 5s here. Good hole shots, a 583 for Michael on the right, 570 for Paul on the left. So both getting really good jumps on the light. Paul Russell, of course, in that Formula 125, so a big difference in dial-in, but he's made a significant chunk of it. Oh, and a little mistake there by Michael Heinitz on the right side. Got a little crossed up getting into that slalom-like maneuver, and Paul Russell is back first by 2.5 tenths. 2.5 tenths lead right now for Paul Russell as Michael Heinitz had a little trouble getting set up for that last maneuver. Alrighty, Michael Heinitz with a 6.11, Paul Russell with a 6.42, but Paul Russell already has a 2.5 tenths advantage, and he's on that faster right side course, so pretty much all he has to do is stay out of trouble to be able to move to the next round, but anything can happen in the challenge, so you got to stay on it. And Paul Russell still with coming in with the lead here, it appears. Yep, Paul Russell will take it and move to the next round. He ends up with a 1.6 second lead and a new dial in, a breakout by a tenth of a second or so. So a new dial in for Paul Russell. So up at the line, we get Doug Rouse on the left side with a 32.351. James Gunn Wilkinson on the right, a 33.681. Starter, we're good. Okay, a problem with the launch on the right side by James. Apparently sometimes those cars have some tricky launch control issues or something, but I'm not sure if that car is equipped with it, but definitely a problem off the lights with a 1.7 second reaction. Half of that was Doug Rouse with a 838, so bit of a problem for James. Okay, into the finish light, as you might imagine, Doug Rouse with a big lead of 5 seconds, 5-second lead for Doug Rouse as he moves to that right side. As big lead there for Doug Rouse. Alrighty, much better start that time for James, a 5:20, actually a really good start. Doug Rouse with a 6:68. Of course, he's got a 5-second lead, so he doesn't actually have to even cut a light anywhere near that good. So Doug just has to stay out of trouble to be able to move to the third round. We get down to 16 drivers, working our way towards the round of 8 here, but currently in the round of 16, our third pair just about to finish up. All right, Doug Rouse taking the win by 5.1 seconds, so he stretched out even a little bit more, knowing he can just cruising. But Doug Rouse in the BMW will take it. Next round is Jonathan Lugod in the S2000 with a 33.708. Peter Loney on the right, 34.498. Starter, they're all yours. All right, and that for Peter Loney, that's a new and improved dial-in. He's had we've only had a couple of drivers break out, and Peter had the big one with about 0.6 change in his dial-in, but he doesn't let it get to him as he got a 5.56 light, a 5.56 reaction to an 8.01 for Jonathan Lugod. So as they come out of the turnaround and through the crossover, looks like Peter Loney still got some of that advantage. Coming into that final maneuver, the advantage, of course, will shift to the left on power, accelerating there, but Peter Loney's there first by almost a full second. 907, so a 9/10 advantage for Peter Loney. Oh, and a red light for Jonathan. Gets a 483 light, so 17 thousandths too quick there on the trigger for Jonathan. So an automatic win there for Peter Loney as soon as he had a green light. Alrighty, red light start there, so an automatic win for Mr. Loney. So on to the next pair. Jeff Stuart up on the left side in the Z car with a 34.642, 34.642. Mike Yanase with a 34.1. Starter, they're all yours. Okay, Jeff Stuart with a reaction of 7.36. Michael Yanase with an 8.32. So both drivers being a little cautious there at the start line. They get to the far end of the course, just about equal, but a cone apparently, yeah, cone on the left-hand side for Jeff. All right, Mike Yanase in with a big lead of 1.1 plus the cone for Jeff Stuart, so a 3.1 second lead, almost 3.2 second lead for Mike Yanase. On now moving over to that left side. All right, all shots there. Michael Yanase, knowing he's got the 3.2 second lead, cuts a 1.3 light. Jeff Stuart, knowing he's got to go for it in the fives with a 5.81. So at this point, it's really going to take a meltdown on the part of Michael. In fact, if he actually hits just one cone and then hesitates any on aggressiveness driving, this could actually swing to Jeff Stuart pretty easily. So right side is back first. And he did it. Jeff Stuart wins by 3.08 as Michael Yanase got a little too leisurely there. Started out with a really leisurely reaction time and then didn't scoot through the course quite fast enough. And Jeff Stuart ends up taking the win in the Z car with a 3.08 win. So he came from way, way behind to taking the win and moving to the next round. Okay, at the line we got Kevin Schultz up on the left side in the Golf R. Right side with the Brian Peters with a 33.148. I don't know if Kevin was in with a 34.1 starter. We're good. All right, Brian Peters with a 6.01, but a little bit of a bog after getting that reaction time, a 7.08 for Kevin Schultz, and got moving pretty good in that Golf R. Brian Peters off his coming off his big win down in San Diego at the Champ Tour last weekend. Looking to see if he can add to that in the Super Challenge. And a cone down on the left side for Kevin Schultz. So things got a little easier for Brian in that regard. Brian back 7/10 ahead, plus the cone. So a 2.7 second advantage right now for Brian Peters. 7/10 on time and 2 seconds for the cone that Kevin Schultz tagged. So Brian Peters with a 2.7 second advantage right now. But as we saw a moment ago, that is not insurmountable. All right, Brian with a 6:35 reaction time, so not sitting there counting his coins or anything. A 6:02 reaction for Kevin Schultz as he decides to go for it, trying to make up that 2.7, but he tags a cone again, so another cone down for Kevin Schultz. So obviously a much bigger cushion now for Brian Peters. All right, Brian Peters taking it by 1.2 seconds. So Brian Peters moving on to the next round, knocking off Kevin Schultz. So Brian Peters in the Z car will move forward. Up the line, Greg McCance on the left side in the WRX with a 31.9. Gary Thomason on the right with a 32.1. Starter, we're good to go. Yep. Oh, and Gary rocked a cone there at the start line right at the 60-foot mark, knocked the cone partially out of the box. I'm not sure if it's all the way out yet or not. But Greg McCance cutting a 6.08 like Gary Thomason a 6.07. And this is, yeah, you had definitely, because he moved it all the way to the other side of the tripod. It's on this side of the tripod. So Gary Thomason with a cone right there at the start area. Gary in with a 9/10 lead, but with the cone, it becomes a 1.1 second lead for Greg McCance. So Gary Thomason tagging a cone on the setup for that right-hand turn, taking and spinning the cone around all the way to the other side of the tripod there that holds the wires up. So Gary Thomason with a cone, and now an advantage of almost a little over 1 second for Greg McCance. Okay, pair of sixes there, 661 on the right, 674 on the left for Gary Thomason. Gary probably really hitting himself over tagging that cone, particularly on the straightaway, but trying to get every inch of setup that he could, and ended up tagging that cone with those big rear tires. Greg McCance in the more bargain basement car compared to the Viper. So Greg McCance trying to knock him off, and looks like he has. Takes the win by 1.9 seconds. So Greg McCance moving on to the next round in the Subaru. But Greg McCance taking the win and moving on. All right, at the line, we get Tom Berry and Jeff Cawthorne for determining our final spot in the top 8. Berry on the left with a 30.739. Cawthorne on the right, 33.708. They're all yours, starter. All right, a 584 hole shot for Tom Berry, a 632 for Jeff Cawthorne. But boy, does Tom get that buggy moving. Great hole shot, and just really gets it hooked up well. Going to take a peek at the 60-foot times when they come up here in a moment and see what he's doing. But he's made up most of that difference. In fact, they look pretty well equal going into that final maneuver. But right side's back first by 8:17. So an 8/10 advantage for Jeff Cawthorne over Tom Berry. But now Tom gets his shot at that. And Tom Berry's 60-foot was 1.7, almost 1.8, so pretty much in line with what we see on most of the all-wheel drive cars on our tires. On a red light start for Jeff Cawthorne, had an 8/10 lead, and then blew it on a 496 red light. A 496 red light, 4 thousandths into red light territory. So very close to a perfect light, but the wrong side of that that limit there. 496 red light, an automatic win for Tom Berry. Alrighty, we are getting ready here for round 3. Go from 8 to 4. David Rock up on the left-hand side with a Spider, a 33.708. Paul Russell on the right, 29.248. Starter, we're good to go. All right, Paul Russell on the right is 741 reaction, a bit better, but David Rock 662. So almost a 10th advantage right there at the start light for David Rock, and he needs it working that tough left side course. Paul Russell, it's always interesting to watch the Formula 125s, the rate that they catch folks. And Paul Russell's back first by 868, so 8.5 tenths advantage for Paul Russell, now moving to that left side course over David Rock. So David's got 8.5 tenths to make up over there on that right side. All right, at 540 for Paul Russell. It doesn't matter that he's got almost a 9/10 lead. He's still cutting great lights. 540 lights with a 721 for David Rock. So David not making any headway at the start line. See if he can do it out on course. Again, he's got to make up a little over 8.5 tenths. As they come down into that final maneuver, David gets out of it first, but boy, it doesn't look like 8 tenths to me. And Paul Russell takes it. He loses by 3 tenths in that round, but overall, the win by Paul Russell in the car to 581. 581 win for Paul Russell. All right, at the line, Doug Rouse on the left side of the Bimmer with a 32.351. Peter Loney on the right with a 34.498. Starter, they're all yours. All right, whole shot and advantage goes to Doug Rouse on the left side. A 581 reaction to a 743 for Peter on the right side. So Doug Rouse is going to try to make every bit of use he can of that left side course, even though it's the tougher course. He makes up a couple of tenths right there at the start line. Peter Loney, though, is working on a new and improved dial-in from where he started, about 6 tenths harder than it was at the beginning. But he is back first by a little bit, 3.5 tenths, a 3.5 tenths lead for Peter Loney as he moves around to the other side. So again, 3.5 tenths advantage for Peter Loney, who's now up on the left side start lights. And Doug Rouse over on the right side now getting ready to tackle that faster right side course. Okay, pair of sixes there, 685 for Doug Rouse, and even better, 606 for Peter Loney on the left side. Alrighty, Peter Loney working that left side, trying to hang on to that advantage he's got. He's only got 3.5 tenths, but Doug Rouse has definitely made that up and more. He wins by 1.3, so and a cone on the left side for Peter Loney. So Doug Rouse effectively with a almost a 3.5 second win in the BMW. So the BMW goes into the final four. Up at the line, we got Jeff Stuart on the left side with a 34.642. Brian Peters on the right side in the 350Z, running against the 370 with a 33.148. Starter, they're all yours. All right, a pair of sixes for these pair of Z cars. 350 on the right, Brian Peters at the wheel, a 650 and a 688 for Jeff Stewart on the left side. Okay, going through the end of that final maneuver, looked pretty close coming out of that. Looks like Brian Peters got the advantage on the acceleration out. A 794 lead, so about 8/10 we'll call it, 8/10 lead for Brian Peters. Now moving over to that left side course, Jeff Stuart. Now we'll tackle that quicker right side course and see if he can come out 8/10 ahead. So 8/10 separating the two drivers, with left side driver Brian Peters having the advantage. All right, Jeff Stewart going for the 38 hole shot to a 784 for Brian Peters. So Brian giving away 2/10 of it right off the bat. So it's down to about a 6/10 spread, at least on the math, right now between these two drivers. Okay, into the finish lights. Jeff Stewart pulls it off with a half-second win. 4:56 is a real battle between those two Z cars, but Jeff Stewart coming out on top after that great hole shot of a 5:38 wins by nearly a half a second. All right, at the line, our all-wheel drive matchup here. Greg McCance on the left side with a 31.9. On the right is Tom Berry with a 30.7. Starter, we're good to go. Oh, and a red light for Tom Berry. 484 red light, left 16 thousandths too soon. Greg McCance with a great hole shot of a 534, knowing he was going to have to run the run of his life probably to stay ahead of Tom. And Tom got a little too eager there with a 484 reaction time. So Greg McCance with the win. And we'll go into the final four. Unfortunately, Tom Berry, your event chair, gets knocked off on a red light. So we're now down to four drivers, Paul Russell and Doug Rouse, Jeff Stewart, and Greg McCance. So in that final four, we've got the Formula 125, the BMW, the 370Z, and the Subaru. So unique spread of vehicles there. Interestingly, compared to years past, not a single front-wheel drive car there. All right, coming up to the line to determine who goes into the top eliminator round. Paul Russell on the left side with a 29.248 dial in. Doug Rouse on the right with a 32.351 in the BMW. Starter, they're all yours whenever they're set to go. All right, pair of great ones here. 5:67 for Doug Rouse, but Paul Russell even better, 5:07, the best reaction time we've seen during the Super Challenge, or any of the challenges for that matter. 5:07, the best reaction time yet. Okay, Doug Rouse coming back first with a 7.5 lead, 7:64 to be exact. Doug Rouse with the advantage, and that's right around the time we believe that the right course is quicker by in average. So we'll see if that Paul Russell's able to pull that back, and whether it's Paul Russell or Doug Rouse that goes to that top eliminator round. Again, a 7.5 advantage. All right, Doug Rouse again with that 7.5 tenths lead, but hole shots right now. Doug not taking anything for granted with Paul Russell in that other line. 5:87 reaction time. Paul a bit slower that time, of 7:25, so over 2 tenths slower than he was on the first round. So making the task just a little bit tougher for him, but boy, has he got the advantage coming into that last maneuver. He is flying. And Paul Russell takes it and breaks out. A 3.5 tenths win for Paul Russell and a new dial-in for him going into the top eliminator round. So 3.5 tenths win for Paul Russell in the kart. Doug Rouse will go to the runoff round for third place against one of these two drivers. Jeff Stuart up on the left side in the 370Z and Greg McCance in the Subaru. 31.9 on the right, 34.6 on the left. Starter, we're good to go. Okay, pair of sixes, 620 on the left for Jeff, 654 on the right for Greg. The E Street prepared WRX working that right side against the C Street 370Z working the left. Looks like Greg McCance exited the slalom before the finish maneuver and is definitely back first. He's in with a 1.2 second lead, a 1.2 second lead for Greg McCance. So again, Greg coming up on the left side with a 1.2 second advantage over Jeff Stewart, now on the faster right side course. See how this all shakes out, but a big lead here for Greg right now. All right, a 7:13 for Greg McCance on the left side, 5:42 for Jeff Stewart. He is going for it on that right side. So a good hole shot there for Jeff on the right side to see if he can make up that 1.2. Though when they got to the turnaround at the far end of the course, they looked just about equal, and he needed to be ahead at that point. And Greg McCance takes it. New dial in for him as well. Going into the top eliminator round, he wins by 7:08, 7/10 win for Greg McCance. That'll put him in the top eliminator round, and Jeff Stewart up against Doug Rouse in the runoff round for third place overall. So again, Paul Russell and Greg McCance will be matching up here in a bit, but first we'll be seeing Doug Rouse and Jeff Stewart in just a moment. While we got a quiet moment, we remind folks awards presentation will follow the Super Challenge here in just a few minutes. We'll get cars lined up over on the sunny side of the tire rack trailer, sort of facing the impound area. So the winners of all the challenges, please bring your cars over. That'd be Christine Grice, of course, taking the ladies challenge, and Jonathan Hartendorp winning the bonus challenge. So those two folks, if you can bring your vehicles over, we'll have awards presentation for both class and challenge immediately after the Super Challenge right here on the sunny side of the tire rack trailer. Okay, up to the line. We get our runoff round. Doug Rouse coming up on the left side in the BMW 330. He's got a dial in a 32,693, and over on the right side is Jeff Stuart pulling up into the lights with a Nissan 370Z. His dial in is a 34,375. So just slightly less than 2 second difference on the tree between the two. Starter, we're good to go. All right, hole shots there, 5:36 for Jeff Stewart, and Doug Rouse tying the best reaction time with a 5:07 reaction for Doug Rouse. So I forgot who had the other 5:07 right now, but looks like cone down on the right side for Jeff Stewart. We'll see if it's scored or not. Nope, safe on that one. So as they come down in that final maneuver, it looks like Jeff has it. Yep, 2/10 lead right now. 2/10 lead over Doug Rouse, but now Doug gets his shot at that course, and that 2/10 could go away pretty quickly. So Doug Rouse probably feeling pretty good about being down just 2/10 right now. Okay, a great light that time for Jeff Stewart at 5:16. He's leading by 2/10, but he knows that's probably not enough in and of itself, so he's got to cut a great time over here on the left. Meanwhile, Doug Rouse gets a 6:39 hole shot, and he's probably feeling pretty good about that 2/10 right now. They get to the top of the course, Jeff Stewart with a little bit of a lead there, a couple of car lengths maybe, but as they get across the crossover, Doug Rouse has pulled ahead, definitely ahead at this point. And definitely more than 2/10. He wins by 1.4 second win for Doug Rouse as he really comes alive on that one, and a breakout of 0.8 of a second on that side. So wow. Alrighty, our top eliminator round at the line. We get Paul Russell up on the left-hand side with a dial in of 28,955, which is a new and improved one. And Greg McCance also with a bit of improvement, a 31,676. Starter, they're all yours. All right, a 671 for Greg McCance, 717 for Paul Russell. And a cone down for Paul Russell on the left side, making life a bit easier for Greg McCance, assuming he can stay clean. Greg looking really good around that turnaround. As Greg McCance works his way into the finish, definitely back first. So he's got a time advantage plus the cone, a 1.9 second advantage on time plus the cone. So nearly 4 seconds right now separating these two drivers. Greg McCance now over on the left side. Again, a nearly 4 second advantage for him over on that left side. For our final run of the weekend here, Paul Russell on the right, Greg McCance on the left. Okay, green lights for both. 5:35 light for Greg McCance, leading by 4 seconds, and he cuts a 5:35 light. Obviously, Greg doesn't know where the dimmer switch is on his efforts. And so Greg McCance really cutting a great light there. Paul Russell with a 624, which normally thought to be pretty good. But rarely do you try to cut a 5:35 when you have a 4 second lead. Paul back first, of course, but not nearly enough. And Greg McCance takes the win by 2.8 seconds. He is your top eliminator here in El Toro, Greg McCance will be your winner. So if we could have Greg McCance bring his car over to the sunny side. Joe, if you're back there, can help line that up. Greg McCance, Christine Berry, and Jonathan Hartendorp, please bring your vehicles over here. We'll get the cones cleared out, and we'll join you outside here in just a moment.